On this cold December day of the 14th, the hour is 5:30. Welcome to this special called meeting of the Danville City Commission. We're all present and accounted for, so I'll call us to order and ask that we be led in a moment of prayer by Commissioner Kevin Caudle.
Pray with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the opportunity to gather here and do the city's business. We are mindful of the responsibility that's involved. We ask for your guidance. We would also ask that as the vaccine for the pandemic comes out, that it is successful and that soon we can get back to what we consider as normal. We ask for your guidance during the holiday season. Keep people safe. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. So, tonight is Commissioner Rick Saris's last night of captivity. Huh? I know. I'm getting there. And as a result, I'll call you out. As a result, gonna ask you to do one more thing officially, if you would, and that is to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And that's right up here front and center. Liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. Since I've not heard otherwise, I will assume the agenda has met your approval. And we'll go straight into hear the public on any items that are on tonight's agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone?
No comments.
Very good. We'll go into general business. Item 1 is the retirement recognition of one Ronnie Yates.
Good evening. Yep. Tonight, Public Services would like to present Ronnie Yates to you all. He officially retired. His last day of work was last day of November, first day of December. He's now been retired. He served us for just a little under 25 years. He has filled several positions, everything from beautification until his last, which was Assistant Public Works Director. He has served his community well for the 25 years that he's been here. He's always tried to take care of these citizens in the community, take care of anything that they needed to the best of his ability. He always stood up for his employees and has done his best to be a good supervisor for them. And he has put forth every effort throughout that time and dedicated pretty much a large portion of his life to this city. So we'd like to present him to you all tonight.
Mr. Yates, as is customary, we present you to this well-earned knife. It is one of the pretty ones that I've seen. Yeah, it's nice looking.
Sure is.
And 24, almost 25 years is admirable. We appreciate all you've done. I'm sure there have been many nights like tonight where you have dealt with the cold and all kinds of inhospitable conditions. What are you going to do with all your free time now?
Not quite sure yet.
I think there's somebody in the room here that
Keep me busy.
she's going to keep you real busy.
I
That's
think
right.
You're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate you.
I appreciate these 24, almost 25 years.
Almost,
I mean,
yes, sir.
I appreciate that.
You know you're always welcome to come back and haunt us whenever you want to.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Enjoy. Merry Christmas to you.
Ronnie, before you get going, if I could just say a couple things, I would really appreciate that opportunity, Mayor. Ronnie, there's a couple things. When we had lunch the other day, a few weeks ago, you know, I want to recognize Ronnie for one thing that is very significant. I do not recall calling him after hours on the weekend, 7 o'clock in the morning, that he did not answer the phone. Or call me before I could get done with the message. And I really, that is a significant feat on your part. And I just want to tell you that the community will miss you and appreciate your service. Sincerely. Yep.
Next on our agenda is the recognition of the retirement, if you will, or the movement to freedom. We'll call it the Free Monday movement. Come out here. Let's get you out of here, brother. You certainly may. This reads, in recognition of Rick Saris for your dedication, commitment, and contributions to the citizens of the city of Danville, for your time serving as the city commissioner on the Board of Commissioners, and that time being from 2015 to 2020, which is 6 years. And I will say to you, it's been a pleasurable 6 years of getting to know you more, working with you. Like Earl said to Ronnie, there's not been a time that I've called you that you haven't returned my call. If you didn't answer it in the first place, you've been very responsive, and I appreciate that. And I know how much you have put into this. Most people don't know, but Rick fell ill with COVID right before the election, and I think that kind of held him up a little bit. But hey, it's Free Mondays.
Yeah.
It's Free Monday, so
Yeah,
with that, sir, it's well earned.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd be glad to do that. So I want to say that it's been an honor and a privilege for me to serve with this group for 6 years. Commissioner Denise Terry, our Mayor Mike Paris, Mayor Pro Tem J.H. Atkins, and Commissioner Kevin Caudell. You guys have been gracious and been really good to work with. I also appreciate the diligent work of the senior staff, and I'm not going to try to go through all the names. The employees here, and 3 of the folks have retired that I've worked with over the 6 years, but everybody's been really good to work with. Also, to the community, and I know we're on camera, so it's just not you, Mimi. Thanks for your support for 6 years. People have been very nice out in the community, haven't torn me down, just gave me good suggestions, and I really appreciate that. And shouting out to the person that's taken over for me, as Mayor Mike said, as I retire. Jenny's going to be a good addition. Congratulations to you. I think that things will go well for everybody here, and that'll be great. I also want to say one more thing to my supporters. I got the most votes I ever have gotten in 4 cycles, so I can't be disappointed. Thank you all very much.
Now, I don't know if the public can see this, but I hope somehow they can, because Mr. Retirement here on a 30-degree night with the wind howling is wearing sandals. If that doesn't speak loudly, I don't know what does. So,
Be called wishful thinking.
Just got back from Florida, so he's still.
He's
yeah,
Living in the warm weather.
Thank you.
you're welcome. Let's get on with the business.
Rick, please call us with a joke every once in a while.
I was gonna things I know we don't want to.
That's why, after you take your time, this is important.
Rick, I think the whole COVID thing has made this, you're sitting off sort of, it doesn't befit you and all that you've done. And, the park system will be forever changed because of your work. And I hope you'll continue to, in that work.
He will.
It's been a pleasure sitting next to you and swapping jokes and thoughts and ideas, and I will miss having you here. I cannot lie. But I wish you well. Urge you to stay involved, and who knows what could happen in the future.
Exactly. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll move right along, and we'll all have plenty of time to congratulate him this evening. Item 3 is the Arts Commission Arts Citizen of the Year announcement. Front and center is Mimi Becker.
Also, just a note, I wanted to express my appreciation to Rick on behalf of the arts community, because the Run for the Brass Awards he allowed us to use an original piece of art, and it has turned out to be very popular among the runners. So I appreciate that, and other things too, but because I'm here for Arts Commission, I wanted to point that out. Last year, it was our privilege to announce the Art Citizen of the Year publicly at the City Commission meeting this time in December. We always like to point out that the Arts Commission exists because of some action by the City Commission almost 22 years ago. So we appreciate that, as well as the fact that you recognize how important the arts are in our community economically, aesthetically, intellectually, et cetera. So you all are the first to know, aside from the recipient, that the Art Citizen of the Year is Liz Orndorff. We had a process by which I sent out a request for all the former art citizens who now have dubbed themselves ACEs, Art Citizens Emeritus, that they would make suggestions. I got a huge number of names and even organizations, and several people said, oh, of course, Liz must have been chosen already, but she should be one if not. And so that was duly noted. She had not ever been recognized. And so when we come back in January, we will give you a rundown of the reasons why. But I think most people probably are very aware of her contributions to our community. So we appreciate the opportunity to make the announcement tonight and the presentation in January. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, well earned on her part, for sure. Item 4 is an update on our local situation with COVID-19. Our Boyle County Health Department Executive Director, Mr. Brent Blevins. Welcome, sir.
Hello there. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys for just a minute and talk a little bit of COVID and where we've been, where we're going, and how quickly, hopefully, we can get there, that's for sure. Just a couple of numbers to give you an idea of where we are right now with COVID, and it's no secret. We've been in a surge now for about 2 months, as a lot of places have been, but Boyle is no exception to that. Our numbers the last 2 weeks have been right about 500 cases. And if you look at our total cases, we've been about 1,500 total for the 10 months. So that just goes to show how quickly we spread that. I've tried to talk a lot lately about long-term cares. And when I say long-term cares, we have 4 here, but I include the jail and North Point in that, because those people are there for a long period of time sometimes. And if you look at those cases, in a little over about the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had 270 plus cases. And this is one of those things that we've talked about as a nation ever since COVID started, of the potential impact of people in facilities. And it is really hitting Boyle County now. It has been for a while in those. The staff are doing tremendous jobs in trying to stop the spread in those facilities, trying to make it the best situation they can, but it's tough when you have a lot of people in a small setting. It's just the reality of it. So definitely keep them in mind, keep those staff in mind, because it's not only the people that are living in those facilities that are positive, it's the staff too. And when you get that combination, that can be really difficult for that. So I say that just to give you a little idea of what our numbers look like, what we're seeing. Most of the spread outside of long-term care right now are small settings where you might have a family, a small family, or a group like that. One person is positive and it spreads pretty quick within that small group. And that's where the most of our spread has been. And I think if you just think about COVID and viruses in general, that kind of makes sense on this, of how that is spreading. I would love to be able to say that I see in the next month or so the rate of cases going down. And I think maybe, and the governor's talked about this, maybe it's plateaued a little and that we're starting to at least maybe stop there or maybe go down a little. And that could be true in Boyle. But I think the next month will be very interesting for a couple of reasons. One is, now that the vaccines are beginning to come out, I'm hoping, and I need help from you guys, and I know you've done this, and I need help from everybody in the community to remind everybody that until a lot of people get vaccinated, until it's had time to do its thing and get that immunity going, we're still going to struggle with rising cases in Boyle and in Kentucky and probably in the U.S. So it's very important right now that we get that message out, to just remind everybody. And I know everybody, they call it COVID fatigue. I know most people are tired of hearing that. I totally get it. But we need it right now for this next month or two, particularly until the vaccines get rolling. The good news is the vaccine, one of them is already here. Now, Ephraim was not one of the first 11 hospitals that got the doses that came out today. Hoping they're on the next go around, because they are a regional hospital and they do pull from about 6 to 10 different communities. I think that's important to remember. A lot of people, when they're talking about Ephraim, sometimes think, oh, it's just a Boyle County thing. They pull from a big area. We get a lot of people in this community from different areas. So hopefully they're on the next round. Hopefully the long-term cares, particularly the senior citizen type facilities, that the agreement that the government has with CVS and Walgreens, for our case it'll be CVS, that they get that going immediately. I don't remember exactly, I think it was 28,000 or 30,000 doses was going to CVS in Kentucky for our long-term cares. I'm hoping that CVS is doing that almost as we speak, starting to get those doses to those long-term care facilities. Because if you look at the deaths that have happened with COVID, the biggest percentage have been in people probably the age of 70 and up. And particularly when it gets in those facilities, it can be very devastating, as we know. So the next vaccine, what I'm expecting for Boyle, and I do hope to hear this any day from the state, is the Moderna one. And real excited about that, number one, because it's easier to handle. Now, the shelf life on these things, once you get them out of the freezer, it varies a little and it can be a little temperamental. But that one does not require the 60 to 80 below, which is very difficult for us to deal with, and gives us a little more flexibility. Hoping that the FDA will approve that Thursday night, as they did last Friday night on the Pfizer one, and after the CDC has their committee meeting. And if that's the case and they start shipping that thing out very quick, and maybe by the beginning of the week, possibly if those doses arrive, we can start giving those out. So here are the orders, if that's what you want to call them, from the state of Kentucky that I have as the health department on those first doses that come out. I'm responsible right up front for EMS, fire, police, sheriff, and the North Point staff is the latest information they gave me on that. And so unless they change that, that's the plan I'm still going with. I've had emails and communication with all those groups over the last month or so, just trying to plan for that and how that's going to work. But those groups, because of the nature of their work, we need to get them going as soon as possible. Now, here's the other piece about the vaccine in the community that, again, if this body can definitely help me push this out. And I know not everybody, and probably not everybody in the room is as gung-ho about vaccines as I am. I'm a vaccine believer. I think it's a great tool we have. I understand not everybody necessarily feels that way in the community. The more people we get vaccinated, the faster we're going to walk ourselves out of this, out of the COVID crisis that we're in. I mean, that's just the bottom line. That's the biggest tool we have. It's not to say that everybody's going to get vaccinated, because they're not. It's just the reality of it. But the more that we do, the better off we'll be. When you start putting that in place, along with continued social distancing, mask wearing for a short period of time, hopefully we can really reduce the cases on this thing quickly in several months. Now, I'm not talking a couple days. We're definitely talking several months still. But anybody that can put that message out about the vaccine, I would encourage them to do that, because that will help. My hope also is that once we start getting the initial doses, that eventually it'll end up in the pharmacies, so that they can start doing the general public. They already have a great system. We don't necessarily need to recreate the wheel on that. If they can start doing that, people can go to the pharmacy they trust, get that shot, a few minutes they're out the door. Why not? I mean, that's just an easy way to do it. If from the health department perspective, if I end up having to do the whole community, which we won't, but if it came to that, it would take a lot longer than our current system. So there's no need for us to go around that system. So hopefully that's where we're going. And that soon we'll be doing that, hopefully is beginning next week. Hopefully those cases or those vaccines will be here, and we'll move on and see where we get. But I just wanted to give you that so you all kind of knew what the plan was. I talked to the Boyle County Schools, and they've got a building there that I think will work very nicely for us to try to do some vaccines as we need to. That'll keep people away from a lot of other buildings. If we have a mass number of people, we can handle them in that building and walk through that. And I know the Danville schools would have done the same thing. I just knew that Boyle had one building they weren't using. So we're very fortunate for that. I know they've got to go through some processes to make sure that'll happen, but hopefully we'll get to know that soon too. So, all right, that's a lot of me rambling. Questions? Anybody have any questions?
So the first, you're responsible for essentially first responders and the North Point staff,
Mhm.
and then after that, what's next? Or do you know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
We might, at that point, actually get to some of the general public. And one of the fortunate things for us is, for a lot of years, we've already done, or always done, the drive-through flu clinics. And we did that for a purpose. Number one, to give out flu shots, but also to practice being able to do that in a quick manner where people didn't have to leave their vehicle. And so we would definitely jump into that if needed, if we get those doses, and how that's going to work. So.
Follow up on that, Brent. I think you've answered a whole bunch of questions in what you call rambling, but it really wasn't. But what about the folks at the hospital? I know it's first responders and then maybe the public. Are they not somewhere in that mix as well?
Absolutely. The first round of Pfizer that comes out is supposed to include the ones that came out now for the long-term care, but also the hospital staff. If the hospital staff have not received Pfizer by the time we get the Moderna in, we'll make sure, number one, that EMS and hospital staff are right up front. And I think Ephraim has already identified, the group of hospital staff that they need quickly on the vaccine. So yes, we will definitely get them. And it might end up that way because they weren't on that first run of Pfizer. It might be there in the Moderna. We divide that up the best way we can. And I think EMS is 45-ish people or so, and it might be that the rest go to the hospital. But you're exactly right. It's got to go to them because they're the ones caring for us. That's for sure.
Most people look at the numbers and they fail to remember that we have a jail population and we have a prison population, and that those feed into our total. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention. Is there, other than dosage, is there any difference between the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine?
It looks like the efficiency of both of them, from what I can tell, they're both claiming that 95, 94%. So it seems they're pretty similar in that. From my perspective, it's just the ease of handling. The Pfizer one is a whole different set of issues in handling that. When you're 60 to 80 below and you only have a short time period to take that out of that freezer and transport to where you're going to do the shots, before you ruin a dose, that is very difficult. We do have a business here in town that called me a couple of weeks ago, and they actually have freezers that can handle that. So logistically, if we ever get to that point, we'll jump right in with that business and we'll be rolling and do what we need to do. But it's just, that's hard for us to work with. So from my perspective, that's the biggest difference I know. I'm sure the biologicals of them, there's, obviously a few things like that, but they both seem to be very efficient in what they do.
I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say thank you for the job you've done in a most unusual and most stressful time.
I appreciate that. It's taken a community, that's for sure. And the great thing for me is I knew, and I've always known that I could come to you guys at any time and you would help us do whatever needed. I knew fiscal court would do the same. I knew both the county and city governments would do, and so for me, that has been tremendously reassuring to have that backup. I never doubt that in anything we're doing, and particularly in COVID. So I appreciate you guys for that.
Mayor, one more thing. I think there's been some confusion too, and I want to just take a moment to reiterate. The city staff and the city commission, we are not the experts and in terms of communication of information. And as you can tell by Brent's communication tonight, clearly he is. And clearly their organization is the point of contact for information down and services outward in reaction to the pandemic. And so for us, in terms of information, if the public wants information and needs information, what we try to do is as different information is made available through the health department, we try to parrot that and to repeat that. We are very hesitant to publish our own interpretation of information and very hesitant to produce some type of press release or bit of information just to communicate, right? So what's critical for us is that we listen to their outward displays of information and repeat that, and we try to limit our reaction to what they provide, right? And I think it's important for the community at large to understand that.
That's a great point. Great point. And feel free, we try to put stuff out on our Facebook page mostly. Every so many days, sometimes every day, and feel free any way you can to pull those over and to put that out. I think that gives us, so that we're all on the same page on what we're looking at.
I also kind of wanted to say some things along the lines of what Earl said, and just to know that I've tried not to contact you all very much because I know you are just trying to keep your head above water. And I just wanted to know how you and your staff are faring, and just to let you know that we are here if there's anything that we can do.
I appreciate that. I'm fortunate, and I said this from day one. I've been at the health department 9 years, and I came into a very seasoned staff, and man, this year has that really paid off because they've been around, and obviously we haven't been in the middle of a pandemic in the 9 years I've been there, but they understood contact tracing. They understood how important that was in the process already, and that helped a lot. The main thing that really helped us is when the state freed up the money through the CARES Act for us to hire contact tracers. That was the difference in the ball game. We have 6 full-time people in that program and I'm sure most of you know her, Mary Beth Touchstone runs that program for us. And if you know Mary Beth, she is extremely thorough. She has a process and a system of how this needs to work, and she's very good at that. And so that allows the rest of our staff, because we never close, we're still doing STDs and WIC and all those other services every day, and it's allowed us to function. But I appreciate thinking about us. It's been a long go. And, we got a little bit longer to go, but we're going to get there. One way or another, we are going to get there where we need to be as a community.
On our website, do we have anything that links to them?
I thought we did, but we will make sure. I think we had a COVID-19 link off the page. It's been a while since I've looked for it. Yeah. I thought we did, yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
sir.
Good deal.
Have you, called Roger Trent and tried to get your job back?
Man, I would like to a few days. I'd like to send him a few people, a few comments, but that's all right. It's been okay.
We're fortunate to have you and appreciate you and your staff, that's for sure.
Well, thank you.
Anything else from anybody?
Thank you. All right, you guys take care, holler at us, and we'll get working on this vaccine stuff.
Merry Christmas to you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Item 5 is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 23rd, 2020. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'd offer a motion to approve the minutes, November 23rd, 2020.
Thanks, thanks Commissioner Atkins and Commissioner Terry. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 6 is resolution number 2020-12-14-01. This is the cancellation of the second meeting. And Chair will entertain a motion for the adoption of that resolution.
Move for approval of resolution 2019-12-14-01.
Thank you, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sears.
And I'll note that the next regular scheduled meeting is on my birthday, and I will be accepting gifts. Call me with ideas.
So noted.
But not as political contributions, I assume.
Drop them off at the house.
Chair will call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 7 is the first reading of ordinance number 1958, and I will ask our city clerk to read that ordinance, please.
This is the first reading of ordinance number 1958, an ordinance enacting and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Danville, Kentucky.
Very well. Do I hear a motion for the ordinance, first reading?
I move for approval of ordinance number 1958.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sears. We are in discussion. This is something we do every year. It basically updates the database as to our ordinances, et cetera.
There have been several changes this year.
I'm sorry?
There have been several changes this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Any further discussion? If none, I'll ask the city clerk to roll call, please.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Paris?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Saris?
Yes.
Item 8 is resolution number 2020-12-14-02. This is a revision of the Streetscape Committee. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We will draw your attention to page 1 of 4, the bottom paragraph I. The steering committee, now that we are beginning the next phase of design for the downtown project, in discussions with the mayor, in that we had several terms that had expired, and he would need to come up with some appointees. In our dialogue, we think we would like to recommend a consolidation of that committee to a smaller group that is a little bit easier to assemble a quorum and a little bit more focused, if you will. There was a significant number of just citizen appointees, and this makes it more administrative. So if we have 7 members, you have 2 citizens members, and then 5 as follows: the city engineer, the executive director for the Danville-Bull County Planning and Zoning, the executive director for the chamber, representatives of Beautification Committee, and a representative of Center College. And that one of the biggest things that we talked about during the master plan was linking pedestrian movement from Center's campus in and through downtown. So it seemed like a good fit, and matter of fact, we've already gotten someone that those folks over there are interested in sending our way. So staff is presenting the resolution, and would certainly welcome your input.
two members that will remain.
Yes, so he will have 2 members to appoint.
And we'll accept any input.
Yep.
And this is, just so everyone knows, the Streetscape Committee is the steering committee for the grants that we get to redo the sidewalkscapes. And that is now also, more so than ever, tying in with our downtown master plan that we are also working on.
It is, that is correct. And it's an advisory board, advisory group for the design team to bounce ideas off of, to gather, rather than having large workshops at every decision point. It gives them a chance to have a different sounding board so that when we eventually get to a workshop, a lot of the ideas that they've talked about's already been vetted by someone other than city staff.
Earl, was there any thought about, putting a hospital representative on there? Because I know they've been real concerned about the walkability, safe walkability of downtown, and, so I didn't know if it, because they weren't actually in the area necessarily, that's why you may have left them off, or just a matter of numbers.
It was a matter of numbers. We were trying to restrict it, but certainly the mayor could find one of the citizens
Sure,
to appoint
Sure.
from that organization would certainly be a reasonable thing to do.
sure.
Similar question is Commissioner Caudell, Heart of Danville. See, and there's a reason for that.
We think that they may have some co-representation from one of the other groups. So the name that has been given to us from Center, for example, is a Heart individual. And so we think for now that they'll have representation through other alternatives. And certainly, if none exists, we could suggest that to the mayor, and he could perhaps pick that other citizen person from the Heart or as an organization, right?
I think that's great, because I think Commissioner Caudell's comment was good. The hospital has a lot of concerns about things that happen. Certainly the Heart wants to find themselves involved.
Well, and in this process, by reducing it to here, the committee could be functional in the month of December upon passing of the resolution, because we would have names for a quorum just off the list. So we can start until we get to the January meeting, and he can appoint or come up with a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners of those other 2 names.
Anything else? So we need a motion and a second on this resolution.
Move for approval of resolution 2020-12-1402.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion?
I just noticed that it's city engineer, not city manager. Is there a reason for that?
It's a working group, and yes, that would be a carryover of the last organization. I may attend some of the meetings as the city manager, but I would not want to necessarily put the city manager in a situation where he's voting either, right? So the city engineer needs to be able to be that person to steer the consultant, and that's part of their job.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
We go from 13 to 7, right?
Yes, sir.
I remember when we expanded it out to 13, the thought was to include more people and to, oddly enough, have a better chance of getting a quorum. I didn't fully understand that, but we gave it a shot, and apparently it's not done.
The smaller group is more successful in getting a quorum, yeah.
If there are no further comments, Chair will call the question. All in favor of the resolution and motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Continue on, Mr. Coffey, with your report.
Thank you. We really don't want to talk too long about what's happening necessarily, but we would offer ourselves up for questions if you all have any glaring issues that were floating around. Other than that, one of the things that we had on our list is we think we're prepared to propose and request, I guess is a better word, an EDP workshop to the commission. I think we have enough information that we can have a successful conversation at this point, and certainly welcome that opportunity if that's something the board sees fit.
Certainly. Is there a particular day, or should we settle on the day?
I would welcome you all kind of picking a week, and then we'll let the city clerk try to work that out within that week. So we can meet before Christmas, or we can meet after Christmas. You have limited time before Christmas is the reason I say that. You really have this week and next. So certainly we can meet the first week of January, the week of the 4th, before the 11th, which is your first regular scheduled meeting. But we serve at your pleasure, so we want to work in the schedule with you folks. We'll be there.
What's your pleasure?
Somebody wanna try for later this week?
I can't this week unless it's.
I'm out this week, but next week's good.
What about next Monday?
We just council meeting on the 28th that I have on my calendar. That would be after the holidays in a sense. And we would not have to wait till 5:30 to get to it.
During the day. Yep.
And that way, would be for the discussion, as well as I knew we elected women to be a part of that discussion. Would be my pleasure.
And not that you have to have me in attendance for your workshop at all, but I would not be available until the week of the 4th or the 11th.
It might be a good move. I appreciate you folks wanting to include me, but it may carry on, and so it might be good for the new commissioner to be involved.
Yeah,
Start.
I would suggest both, yeah.
I definitely would like to get it in before January 11th if we can, especially in light of Junction City's decision that was in the newspaper today.
Monday, the 4th and 5th are good. The 7th is good.
I can do the 6th or the 7th or the 8th, if that's where we're going. We're not gonna look at December at all.
Be tough.
Okay.
So, 7th or the 8th work best for everybody? That's a Thursday and a Friday, or Friday.
Do you want to go with 11 a.m. on the 7th then, to steer you all towards the time?
Sure.
That works for me.
11 on the 7th.
You good? Rick, are you good?
Mr. Coffey, you'll reach out to, Jenny Holland.
We'll let the city clerk, and she'll be scheduling the meeting, and then, yeah, we'll have it, some discussion with Ms. Holland and trying to give some background information. That'll work out perfect. Yep.
Real quickly, just remind me, where are we heading with the workshop? What do we hope to accomplish?
I think what we'd like to do is present, so there was a lot of dialogue around land and how you address land. One of the things we want to do is try to figure out structurally and physically, or not physically, structurally and legally, how you address that issue with land as an incentive, for example. There's been a lot of questions tied to that. And also there's been questions raised about the number of staff and who's doing what. And so what we'd like to do is try to box that into organizational structure that is functional, and then it considers all the issues that's been brought forth so far, or at least to our attention. Yep.
Thank you.
Is Stephen gonna be available for the 7th?
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
I'd like to request as part of this initial meeting that we do a EDP 101 refresher about what we have currently.
Sure.
So we can look at the pros, positives and negatives of that before we start talking about something to replace it with.
Yes, and Mr. Atkins did ask that of us, and that was going to be part of the presentation. So what we'll do is we'll try to do a flow chart for what happens now. And as things become more complex with the implementation of the downtown master plan and/or other incentive plans that the city has been challenged or tasked with considering, such as housing incentives or whatever there may be, we will talk about then the future flow chart or what that might look like, and then really go from there, open it up for conversation. And I'm sure some of you may have some strong opinions, which is part of it, and we'll see what that looks like and try to make something out of it.
Point of clarification, Commissioner Atkins, I don't see this replacing EDP as an organization. I think it's going to be two different animals.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it will replace our participation in what we have currently if we adopt something else. We're not gonna be involved.
It may change things from a budgetary standpoint of view.
Yeah, well, okay, all right.
Yeah, I guess, in essence, how we integrate with the current, or
Sure.
how we see that working.
And I guess I'm asking, is this gonna be just us? Which again, it has to be a public meeting, I guess. Are we gonna have any other presenters, and, or any of our colleagues from the other corner that are gonna be invited to this, or it's just for us?
I would say at this point, no.
I'm no, we would suggest that the commission, you all as a board, talk about amongst yourselves and make some philosophical decisions. And we can present an organized thought process to that. And as you all start to pick from the shopping cart, then that steers us towards the next meeting. So there'll be more than one meeting. This is a beginning point where we're really wanting to have dialogue and really get into it.
As we've said, oftentimes when we think about large policy issues, it is most productive to go in this linear fashion, that each independent partner kind of filter the conversation and decide from a policy position what is best for the clients or citizens that they serve. And then after you come to that conclusion is when you reach out to your other partners that you need to be in concert with and see if there is potential for marriage of that policy idea. Involvement of too many players early on in policy decision-making is not only problematic, but it's hard to decipher the interest that best serves each entity. So ultimately, what you're deciding is a big issue. If you have certain goals and objectives, and what you're going to be looking at from what we've heard you say through the past weeks and months is how do we get to an endpoint, or how do we obtain an objective? Do we need a sedan, a minivan, a truck, or a jet? And I think what you will be seeing presented are different vehicles, potentially with a recommended vehicle of how to attain a certain objective. And it'll be for you to determine if that meets your policy interests or not. And once that decision's made, then other potential partners would have to go through that same process to see if they reach the same conclusion.
Mr. Dexter, I really want to say thank you. I appreciate the way you stated that. I know there's some press someplace around, and when you do your article about the EDP workshop, we're having to please include Mr. Dexter's comment. It really clears it up in my mind that we're starting, we're wide open. We're going into this with lots of options.
Correct.
I'm good.
Anything else, Mr. Coffey?
No, sir. Yep.
If there's nothing,
Can I ask him a question?
yeah, sure.
You want to inform the commission, I guess, and some of the public without calling any names out about your recent donation of green things?
We did. The city accepted a donation for some trees to be installed at Hilldale, and we are excited about that, and we're trying to continue and steer those through Dr. Weston's effort with his foundation. And it's just a strong support for those trees and just the, really what trees mean and the impact they can have. You can get philosophical about what a tree means. You know, the age of a tree is significant, and so we want to definitely thank Mr. Nathaniel Donahue. We'll name him, and he was one of the ones donated more than 20 trees, and certainly is trying to create a situation where he can continue that.
Anything else?
And a couple, but this will be quick. Can you give us an update on Parks and Rec Director and the engineer?
Sure can. We hopefully will have some information on the engineer's plural hires tonight, later on. But as far as Parks and Rec Director, we got more than 40 applicants, and HR Director is sorting through those, trying to assemble a shorter list of those to get into the full evaluation of, and it's certainly something that's going to take a little bit, given the quantity of applicants, and then, so we're looking to have something in December on that, not in terms of recommendation, but in terms of narrow down to a workable group to really get into an interview.
And, one thing that, our HR director, Randy Lloyd, has done is he forms a committee of some staff, in whichever department a hire is being made, and the committee, made up of staff members from that department, assist and have input into the hiring. So I think that's a great thing that he has done, and it puts more eyes on it, and, we value the input from those staff members in those departments, because they're the ones that, have to live and work with that person. And, so I'm excited to see what applicants, we see, and when, is there a timeline on that?
It takes a while when you're looking at that many. It takes a while just to coordinate the schedules and such. We do expect the advisory board to have some representation on there, and I think he was trying to work through that as well. So we're not just talking about in-house, although it's a city employee. We would like to get input from the Parks and Rec Committee.
And Earl, the other thing I was gonna ask a question about is that the community's getting excited about the ground, concrete next door being moved. So we're gonna have some official, notification about that, a groundbreaking ceremony or something to let them know we're serious about moving forward.
You know, we've done a groundbreaking for about everything. To be totally honest with you, I totally forgot. That was not even on my radar. I was too anxious to get, I mean, I'm readily admit I'm red-faced, because we've done all kinds of ribbon cuttings and things like that, and that never even crossed my mind with that. And I apologize.
We can still do it even though they've actually moved some of the dirt.
Yeah, they're rolling now. It's too late.
Can we drive the backhoe?
Yeah, we can run around town, just, yeah. No, we can have something like that if you want. I think the COVID issues and social distancing, you know, may not warrant a large crowd, but if y'all want to have something ceremonial, we can work something out, possibly later on this week. Yeah, if everybody's in town.
The citizens who brought it to my attention just said that it'd be neat for, because that'd be a way for the public, whether to drive downtown or not, to find out that there's been some progress made.
Yeah, and that was totally, it never even crossed my mind.
That's okay, and I
Yep.
almost forgot to ask you, but that's okay.
Obviously, I see it on my TV.
You know, I wanted to go back, if I could, just to an earlier comment that you made, Commissioner Terry, about involvement in hires by other individuals, particularly like the Parks Committee. I just wanted to say, as a matter of a public statement, that personnel matters are abundantly private and have certain laws and protections that go in those. So committees of the city typically aren't involved for a myriad of reasons in hiring. And that would be my continued advice in this situation, that no member of the park committee, as in any other committee, whether it's a cemetery, be involved in the hiring of a sexton or what have you, it's not appropriate, and also not legal to have them involved because of certain disclosure rules and privacy concerns that the city may have. So while employees may be involved in that process to a degree, it would not be proper for committee involvement. Our agreement with the fiscal court on the participation says that we will provide advance notice of the candidate recommended for hire, so there can be some early buy-in and participation in that individual, but not from a vote standpoint. So I just wanted to clarify that before the train leaves the station, that that's the path we're on.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thanks for that.
Moving right along, we'll move into the section called Hear the Public. And this is the public's opportunity to address anything that is not on tonight's agenda.
There are no comments?
Very good. We'll move on into commissioner comments. Ladies first.
I just wanted to reiterate, my appreciation to Commissioner Sears. You know, you always do have a joke, but you always have something positive to say and thoughtful, and, you have a very good, you always have a very good perspective on things, and, we've had a lot of good times and a lot of good discussions. And again, I just appreciate your service, and it's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Anything else from anybody? Mr. Atkins?
Commissioner Terry, aren't you gonna say something about Boyle County revenue?
Sure. Will County Rebels are headed to Commonwealth Stadium next Saturday,
Friday night, 7 p.m.
Friday night, 7 p.m.
You're gonna be late.
I'm not going, but,
Oh, that's
yes,
great. I mean, they
that's,
just
yeah.
dump trucked everybody this year. It's very
Yeah,
impressive.
it's been an unusual season. It's also been an unusual marching band season. But we'll continue to support them, and, I don't foresee them having any problem, but don't let me jinx it.
I mean, you don't receive any funds on the football team.
The football team, I don't know if the band is going or not. The band is trying to get enough kids to go.
As it relates to COVID and following up on Mr. Blevins, this would be, once again, a reminder that whether you're into the mask wearing or not, please play along, because the small businesses depend on keeping the doors open. If you don't play along, it doesn't help.
Anyone else?
Well, it's your last meeting of the year, so, the right thing to do is, say happy holidays to the community from the commission. Any extra turkeys out there, any extra presents out there? Bring them to City Hall. I'll bring them to my house, right? Bring them to City Hall, right?
Along those lines, I'm sure that there are a lot of people, more than usual, that are in need this time of year. Anything that anyone can do in the way of support of Salvation Army or Family Services or, I'm sorry? Food bank. I would encourage that highly. One of the topics that seems to be emerging out here is our issue of homelessness. I don't know, want everybody to be thinking how, I'm not saying we should address that per se, but it needs to be addressed. An answer needs to be developed, because it's just not right to have somebody homeless in today's world.
There's a community-wide committee that's been formed, and you have 3 commissioners. We spent some time trying to get the information from Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Collins, Commissioner Terry himself. Got another meeting the 15th, Friday night at 7 o'clock. So the dialogue continues. Okay?
And the meeting tomorrow night is by Zoom?
Zoom, 7 o'clock. It's the follow-up program presented by Women's.
Okay. Good. Look forward to some recommendations out of that. Anything else? Then we'll move on into the financials. And you have the bill list in front of you. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the bill list dated December 14th in the amount of $1,241,669.33.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, thank you. Discussion? All pretty routine. All in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving right along to Resolution 11, number 2020, item 11, Resolution number 2020-12-14-03. This is amendment number 4 in the contract with HDR. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. As we were designing the wastewater treatment plant, we originally felt like those would be bond funds, which meant we really didn't have to do a PER, preliminary engineering report, and therefore HDR had not considered it in their original scope. Filing for the EDA grant, they are asking to be reimbursed for that cost, and certainly that's something totally reasonable. And we are suggesting that to the commission that you consider that with the resolution. The cost of that is $10,000 and is a cost for the project funds out of the overall project budget, I guess.
Do we hear a motion?
I move for approval, resolution 2020-12-14-03.
Thanks, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Terry, thanks. Discussion?
And what is this again? What is the, cost for?
We are paying HDR to complete a preliminary engineering report, which has got a basic structure to it that the funding agencies desire to see. And it's quite a bit of work, to be honest with you. And it is necessary when we apply for grant funds, for example, the EDA grant, that we are seeking and we are trying to continue to pursue. And so that PER is a document that we really didn't anticipate originally, but since we applied for the grant money, and we need that report. Yeah.
Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, like sign. Item 12 is resolution number 2020-12-14-04. This is the approval for the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority Assistance Agreement. Mr. Coffey.
For the Perryville Road water system improvement projects that are outstanding from the Water Tower West, the Tuggle Road site west, the city has applied for the KA loan that was approved sometime back. Now that the project is awarded, we can get the actual agreement executed, and that's what you have in front of you.
I need a motion, please.
I'll motion to approve resolution 2020-12-14-05.
1404. That's quite all right. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, like sign. Glad to see that project moving along. Item 13 is resolution number 2020-12-14-05. This is approval for the USDA connectivity grant. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. The Rural Development has a grant program to provide broadband connectivity. The application in front of you, we are proposing a $2 million project to submit to them. That will require a $300,000 local match or 15%. Staff is recommending that we apply for the grant. We do not have the $300,000 currently allocated. We do think that we have reserve funds that if we are awarded the grant, then we would do a couple things. We would both be trying to establish broadband connectivity throughout the county, because based on the information we've got so far, that would fully fund the initial phase of construction that we had identified previously. Certainly, we, with hopefully the movement in the engineering positions, staff would have time to execute the work during this grant cycle. And so what staff is suggesting is that you make application for the grant in this grant cycle in December, and then basically see what happens. If we get awarded, then we'll react accordingly, because you'll be getting $2 million worth of infrastructure for $300,000. So certainly it's something to consider, and you can always decline that in the event that the finances just doesn't work.
If there are no further comments or questions, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 14 is resolution number 2020-12-14-06. This is the resolution appointing our city manager as the authorized representative and signer and certifier for the USDA Connectivity Grant.
Because it is a digital submission, so it just seems more efficient to do it this way. And certainly, it's not something that we want to sign documents on behalf of the city. That's obviously the mayor's role, but in this case, since things are digitally submitted, it seems appropriate.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
Move for approval of Resolution 2020-10-14-06.
Thank you, Commissioner Cardle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Commissioners Atkins and Terry in a close race. Any further discussion or comment?
I read the wrong resolution number.
Oh.
It should be 2020-12-14-06. I said 10-14-06. Because I don't know my numbers.
None of us caught it, I don't think. But anyway, if there's no further comments, call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 15 is resolution number 2020-12-14-07. This is the bid award for the demolition of Walker Hall. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. In order to make the site more pleasing to liquidate, the city has solicited bids to demolish the structures on the property and leave it in a cleared fashion that is clean and tidy. Staff has solicited and received 6 bids. The low bidder is Innovation Demolition at $159,368. Whitaker Excavation was second as $167,000, and Rayburn Excavation was third at $168,000. Certainly, there's some higher ones, but staff believes in the experience of innovation based on our background work, and therefore can only recommend to go forward with the low bidder.
Were those 3, do you want a motion first?
Do.
Okay. I will make the motion to accept Resolution 2020-12-14-07.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sears. Now we're in discussion.
Now I will ask my question. Of the 3 that were similar in cost were was the scope of work and the value, I guess, similar as well?
Yes.
I was very surprised at the range of
It-
all of the bids.
There was a group that took it very serious, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And there was a group that took
That's
it
a
less
good way to
serious.
put it.
If there's no other questions or comments, call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 16 is resolution number 2020-12-14-08. This is change order number 1 for the Central Fire Station.
The change order number 1 is designed to save expenditure. It occurs through the effort of staff over the course of time. The city will be conducting the purchase of materials directly, taking advantage of our tax exempt status. So we're withdrawing the purchase of the materials from the contract and the contract amount due Morelia. The savings will result in $120,334.47. We'll use methodologies that we've used on other projects, and the construction company will still be responsible for the warranties and the installation of the materials. Certainly something staff recommends.
Do I hear a motion for that recommendation?
Yes, I gladly approve Resolution 2020-12-14-08.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner
Well-
Atkins and Commissioner Terry. Discussion?
This is just, I'm sorry, go ahead. Because the city is a tax exempt entity,
That is correct.
this was the savings on the sales tax alone?
That is correct.
Sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
I didn't look up Commissioner Terry, my apologies. You know, you exactly hear what you said, that you want to comment, or maybe you already have on the tax.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Anything further? Seeing none, all in favor of the resolution and motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That ends the business on tonight's agenda. I do understand we have need for an executive session.
We do.
And under what conditions do we have that?
Litigation and personnel and property acquisition.
Do I hear a motion that we move into executive session for litigation, personnel, and property acquisition?
You're going to make me do it, now that I have my good cheat sheet.
Mhm.
I will make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss personnel matters pursuant to KRS 618101F. Also to discuss litigation pursuant to KRS 618101C. And did you say property acquisition as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, regarding potential real property acquisition for which publicity at present stage might or would likely affect the value per KRS 618101B.
We have a motion.
No.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is that a second, Commissioner Cardle? Thank you. All in favor?
Mayor, before you take the vote, can I take an opportunity to, in the legal section? I just wanted to say publicly what I was going to say privately to Rick. And that is, I think Rick, I don't believe that leaders are born. I believe they rise up to the occasion when the circumstances are appropriate for them to act and ripe for their leadership. And I think the perspective that you've offered the commission has, as a business owner with employees, with unique struggles of a certain class of people in Danville, has been not only appropriate but needed for the city at this current time. I also think you have possessed a strong acumen for when to push the gas and when to maybe glide or when to stomp the brakes. And I personally have appreciated your rational business approach. It's been full of common sense to a host of issues. And I think I can also say affirmatively that but for your presence at this time and love for Parks and Recreation and I think, gravitas in that world, that we would not have reached resolution of that issue in this community. So I think that's probably a hallmark achievement, not only of the city, but it's a direct result from your leadership, frankly. So personally, I've enjoyed working with you. I think the city is better off because of your leadership, and well done.
Thank you very much, Counselor. And, one more comment before you vote too, because I think they'll leave happy holidays to our jokers.
There you go.
And can I make a correction before we vote? The meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, is the bail reform project meeting, not the homelessness meeting, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the jail reform project.
We have a motion and a second to move into executive session. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are in executive session. Motion that we move back into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We are in regular session. Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We would like to recommend and are presenting to you Marshall Carrier to the position of Utilities Director for the city.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Staff is presenting to you the recommendation of Josh Morgan to the position of City Engineer.
So moved. So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Staff has presented Brandon Connolly as a full-time police officer.
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Staff is recommending the hiring of Haley Donahue to the position of Legislative Administrative Assistant.
Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
You ended up, Rick, take last.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Any further business to come before? Seeing none?
Everyone have a safe and happy holidays.
I'd like to make a motion, we go back into executive session.
You can go by yourself.
Do we hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,